Did you know that in Kansas there are massive rock formations that look like the ruins of a lost civilization? Or that millions of years ago the entire state was covered by an ocean filled with giant sharks and prehistoric marine reptiles? Or that in some parts of the state the ground can suddenly collapse, opening enormous craters right in the middle of the prairie? Well, Kansas may seem like just a flat and quiet state, until you discover it hides some of the strangest landscapes in the United States. And today, we're going to explore 35 geography facts about Kansas, including places so surreal that you might not want to get too close. Fact 35. The highest peak is not a mountain at all. Standing at 4,039 feet above sea level, Mount Sunflower serves as the highest point in the state of Kansas. Located in Wallace County near the border of Colorado, this landmark is not a jagged peak, but rather a gentle, imperceptible rise on a private ranch. Because the entire state gradually slopes upward from east to west, the elevation here is actually higher than some mountains in the eastern United States. Visitors often find a sense of irony in the name, as the surrounding terrain remains part of the high plains landscape rather than a traditional mountain range. The site is marked by a metal sculpture and a mailbox where travelers can leave notes about their journey to this quiet summit. Fact 34. Chalk pyramids rise from the western plains. Monument rocks, also known as the Chalk Pyramids, are towering formations in Gove County that reach heights of up to 70 feet. These massive structures are composed of Niobrara chalk, which was deposited approximately 80 million years ago when a vast interior seaway covered the central United States. Over millennia, erosion from wind and water carved the soft limestone into distinct spires and arches that look out of place in the modern prairie. This location was the first site in Kansas to be named a National Natural Landmark, and it remains a premier spot for observing the raw power of geological time. The rocks are rich with marine fossils, including the remains of giant prehistoric fish and swimming reptiles that once ruled these waters. Fact 33. A limestone castle stands as a relic of the past. Castle Rock is a striking badland formation located in the Hackberry Creek Valley of Gove County. Like its neighbor Monument Rocks, it consists of chalk and shale deposits from the Cretaceous period, forming tall spires that resemble the ruins of a medieval fortress. While the main spire is the most famous feature, the surrounding area contains intricate bluffs and smaller formations that showcase the fragility of this soft rock. Weathering is a constant force here, and significant portions of the tallest spire have collapsed during heavy storms over the last several decades, reminding us that geography is never permanent. The site is a favorite for paleontologists who frequently find shark teeth and vertebrae embedded in the dusty white slopes. Fact 32. Deep canyons hide within the northwestern corner. In Cheyenne County, the landscape suddenly drops into the Arikari Breaks, a rugged system of badlands and deep ravines stretching for 36 miles. These breaks were formed by the erosion of loess, which is a wind-deposited silt that can maintain nearly vertical walls when cut by water. The result is a maze of jagged ridges and narrow canyons that contrast sharply with the surrounding flat farmland. This area provides a unique habitat for various wildlife and plants that are not typically found in the more open sections of the high plains. Because of the difficult terrain, much of the Arikari Breaks remains untouched by modern agriculture, preserving a wild and untamed look at the original Kansas territory. The sheer scale of the erosion reveals how powerful a small amount of water can be when acting on soft soil over thousands of years. Would you expect to find a miniature version of the Grand Canyon hidden in the Kansas wheat belt? Fact 31. Giant stone mushrooms grow in the middle of the state. Mushroom Rock State Park, the smallest state park in Kansas, contains some of the most unusual geological formations in the world. These bizarre structures are known as concretions, created millions of years ago when mineral-rich groundwater hardened sections of prehistoric sand dunes into dense stone cores. As centuries passed, powerful winds, rain, and shifting temperatures slowly eroded the softer rock around them, leaving behind towering formations with thin stems and enormous rounded caps. Some of these natural stone mushrooms reach up to 15 feet in diameter and appear almost too perfectly balanced to be real. The park's sandstone belongs to the ancient Dakota Formation, a geological layer dating back to the age of dinosaurs. Long before modern highways crossed the plains, these strange rock formations served as landmarks for Native American tribes, settlers, and pioneers traveling through the region. Many visitors carved names, symbols, and messages into the soft stone, and some of those markings remain visible today. Standing among these towering shapes feels surreal, as if nature briefly abandoned its normal rules and sculpted suggested a landscape pulled from another planet. Fact 30. The largest inland marsh in the United States. Cheyenne Bottoms is a massive natural depression covering 41,000 acres in Barton County, acting as a critical stopover for millions of migratory birds. This geological basin is so vast that it collects water from a large surrounding area, creating a complex system of marshes and mudflats. During peak migration seasons, nearly half of all shorebirds in North America that migrate east of the Rocky Mountains stop here to rest and feed. The area is classified as a wetland of international importance, highlighting its global ecological significance. Because the water levels fluctuate based on rainfall and evaporation, the appearance of the marsh can change dramatically from week to week. It represents a rare and vital ecosystem that has survived despite the heavy agricultural demands of the region. Fact 29. Salt marshes create a desert-like oasis. Quivira National Wildlife Refuge in Stafford County features a unique combination of inland salt marshes and sand dunes. The salt originates from groundwater that passes through ancient mineral deposits before rising to the surface, creating a habitat that mimics the coastal environments of the Gulf of Mexico. This salinity supports specific types of vegetation and brine shrimp that attract rare birds like the whooping crane and the interior least tern. The refuge is a mosaic of prairie, salt flats, and wetlands, providing a diverse range of environments within a relatively small area. It is one of the few places in the world where you can find sand dunes and salt water in the middle of a landlocked prairie state. The contrast between the white salt crust and the green prairie grasses creates a stunning visual landscape that feels entirely foreign. Fact 28. The last great expanse of tallgrass prairie. The Flint Hills of eastern Kansas represent the largest remaining area of unplowed tallgrass prairie in North America. This region survived the plow because the soil is thin and filled with layers of chert, a hard rock also known as flint, which made farming nearly impossible for early settlers. Instead of being converted to crops, the hills were used for cattle grazing, which helped preserve the original ecosystem of deep-rooted grasses and wildflowers. Today, the Flint Hills offer a glimpse into what a huge portion of the central United States looked like before the 19th century. The rolling hills create a sea of green that can reach heights of 8 feet by the end of the summer season. It is a landscape defined by its resilience and the ancient rocks that protected it from human development. During spring and early summer, thousands of acres burst into color as native flowers bloom across the open plains, while powerful winds ripple through the grass like waves across an ocean. Massive prescribed burns are still carried out each year to maintain the prairie, continuing a natural cycle that has shaped this environment for centuries. Few places in America preserve the raw beauty of the original Great Plains as completely as the Flint Hills. Fact 27. A national preserve protects the heart of the prairie. Within the Flint Hills lies the Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve, which was established to protect a tiny remnant of an ecosystem that once covered 170 million acres. This site includes a historic ranch and a thriving herd of American bison that graze freely across the hills, maintaining the natural balance of the grassland. The preserve showcases the relationship between the geology of the hills and the biological diversity of the plants that grow there. Controlled burns are used regularly to mimic the natural fire cycle that prevents forests from encroaching on the prairie. This management ensures that the tallgrass species, such as big bluestem and Indian grass, continue to dominate the landscape. Walking through the preserve feels like stepping back in time to an era when the horizon was unbroken by trees or roads. Fact 26. A massive sinkhole contains a hidden well. The Big Basin Prairie Preserve in Clark County is home to a geological feature known as Big Basin, a circular sinkhole that measures 1 mile in diameter and 100 feet deep. This massive depression was formed when underground salt deposits dissolved, causing the surface to collapse inward. Inside this basin lies a smaller, more mysterious sinkhole called St. Jacob's Well, which is a permanent pool of water that has never been known to go dry. Legend once claimed the well was bottomless, but modern measurements show it is about 58 feet deep. This site serves as a vital water source for local wildlife and was a landmark for travelers on the nearby cattle trails. The vertical walls of the sinkholes reveal layers of rock that tell the story of the state's volatile geological history. Is there something unnerving about the idea of the ground beneath your feet simply dissolving away to create such a massive crater? Fact 25. The Badlands of Little Jerusalem. Little Jerusalem Badlands State Park features a mile-long stretch of towering white chalk bluffs that reach up to 100 feet in height. These formations are the largest Niobrara chalk outcrops in Kansas and are located in Logan County along the Smoky Hill River. The dramatic, jagged shapes of the rocks inspired the name because they reminded early travelers of the walls of the ancient city of Jerusalem. This area is home to the largest population of Great Plains wild buckwheat, a plant found nowhere else on Earth. The fragile landscape is protected to prevent damage to the soft rock and the rare species that depend on it. Visitors can explore the rim of the Badlands, offering views of a desert-like environment that seems impossible in the heart of a prairie. Beneath these chalk layers lie the remains of an ancient inland sea that covered much of North America more than 80 million years ago. Fossils of giant marine reptiles, fish, and prehistoric birds have been discovered in the surrounding region, turning the area into one of the most scientifically important fossil sites in the Great Plains. The stark white cliffs glow brilliantly at sunrise and sunset, creating one of the most surreal natural landscapes in the entire state. Fact 24. A city made of giant stone spheres. Rock City Park near Minneapolis, Kansas, contains a cluster of approximately 200 giant sandstone spheres scattered across a hillside. These boulders, known as concretions, can reach diameters of up to 27 feet and are the largest of their kind in the world. They formed millions of years ago in a prehistoric river delta when calcite-rich water cemented sand into hard, spherical shapes. Over millions of years, the surrounding softer sandstone eroded away, leaving these massive globes sitting on the surface like marbles dropped by a giant. Some of the rocks have been weathered into strange shapes or split in half, revealing their internal layers. This site is a testament to the incredible variety of geological processes that have shaped the plains over eons. It is one of the few places where you can walk among hundreds of boulders that are perfectly rounded by nature. Why do you think humans are so naturally drawn to such symmetrical and unusual shapes in the wild? Fact 23. The laboratory of the tallgrass prairie. The Kanza Prairie Biological Station in Riley County serves as a premier outdoor laboratory for studying the complex dynamics of the tallgrass prairie ecosystem. Covering 8,600 acres, this site is unique because it combines long-term research on the effects of fire and grazing by native bison and domestic cattle. Scientists here have discovered that regular burning is essential to prevent the expansion of woody shrubs and trees, which would otherwise transform the grassland into a forest. The hilly terrain is formed by alternating layers of limestone and shale, creating a terraced landscape that is characteristic of the Flint Hills region. This research station is part of a global network of sites dedicated to understanding how environmental changes affect our natural world over decades. It is a place where the scent of smoke and the sound of wind through the grass provide a sensory link to the ancient past. Fact 22. A riverbed built primarily of shifting sand. The Kansas River, commonly known as the Kaw, is one of the longest prairie rivers in the world and defines the northern drainage of the state. Flowing 170 miles from the confluence of the Republican and Smoky Hill rivers, it joins the Missouri River at Kansas City. This waterway is unique because its bed is primarily composed of sand and gravel deposited by glaciers and ancient rivers, making it a valuable source of industrial materials. For over a century, sand dredging has been a significant activity along its banks, although it has raised concerns about the long-term impact on the river's depth and stability. The river valley is a fertile agricultural corridor that supported some of the earliest permanent settlements in the region. Its wide, slow-moving waters provide a vital habitat for many species of fish and birds that rely on the sandbars for nesting. Fact 21. An ancient river hidden beneath the soil. Hidden beneath the surface of northeastern Kansas lies the Tonganoxie Paleo Valley, a massive ancient river system that existed over 300 million years ago. This geological feature was carved into the earth during the Pennsylvanian period when sea levels dropped, allowing a river to erode a deep channel through the landscape. Eventually, the valley was filled with sand and silt, which later hardened into sandstone and shale, preserving the shape of the ancient riverbed. Today, geologists study this paleo valley to understand the fluctuations of prehistoric oceans and the movement of sediments across the continent. Because the sandstone is more porous than the surrounding rock, it often serves as an important aquifer for local communities. The discovery of this hidden valley required advanced mapping techniques since it is mostly invisible from the modern surface. Fact 20. The wall of ice that reshaped the North. The landscape of northeastern Kansas was forever changed by the arrival of massive glaciers during the Great Ice Age over 600,000 years ago. These ice sheets, some over 1,000 feet thick, ground down the terrain and left behind a thick layer of glacial till consisting of clay, silt, and rocks. One of the most visible signs of this period are the giant red quartzite boulders, known as glacial erratics, which were carried hundreds of miles from Minnesota and South Dakota. These boulders sit atop hills or in fields where they were dropped as the ice melted, serving as silent monuments to the power of the frozen past. The southern boundary of the glaciers, known as the glacial border, roughly follows the path of the Kansas River today. This ancient ice significantly improved the fertility of the soil, making this region one of the most productive agricultural areas in the nation. Fact 19. The deepest hand-dug hole on the planet. In the town of Greensburg, you can find the Big Well, which is recognized as the largest hand-dug well in the entire world. Construction began in 1887 as a way to provide water for the Santa Fe Railroad and the growing community. Workers used shovels and pickaxes to dig a hole 32 feet wide and 109 feet deep, eventually lining the interior with native stone for stability. This incredible feat of engineering was completed in less than 1 year, proving the determination of the early pioneers who settled the arid plains. Although it was retired from official service in the 1930s, the well remains a popular tourist attraction and a symbol of local resilience. After a massive tornado destroyed much of the town in 2007, the museum was rebuilt to showcase both the well and the town's green reconstruction. Fact 18. A sandstone fortress on the Prairie. Coronado Heights is a scenic overlook in Saline County that rises 300 feet above the surrounding Smoky Hill River Valley. This sandstone butte is part of the Smoky Hills region, which is characterized by colorful rock formations made of Dakota sandstone. The site is named after the Spanish explorer Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, who is believed to have visited the area in 1541 during his search for the legendary Seven Cities of Gold. A stone castle was built atop the hill by the Works Progress Administration in the 1930s, providing a permanent structure for visitors to enjoy the panoramic views. The hill itself is a geological remnant that has resisted the erosion that flattened the surrounding plains over millions of years. It offers a rare vantage point where one can see for miles in every direction, illustrating the vastness of the central Kansas landscape. During sunrise and sunset, the sandstone cliffs glow with shades of orange and gold, creating one of the most dramatic natural scenes in the state. The hill has also become a popular destination for hikers, photographers, and travelers seeking a sweeping view of the endless prairie stretching across central Kansas. Fact 17. The vibrant colors of the southern canyons. The Gypsum Hills, also known as the Red Hills, offer some of the most vibrant and rugged scenery in south central Kansas. Located primarily in Barber County, this region is famous for its rolling hills of red shale and siltstone that are capped with layers of white gypsum. The deep red color comes from iron oxide, giving the landscape an appearance that more closely resembles the American Southwest than the typical Midwestern prairie. Erosion has carved deep canyons and flat-topped mesas out of the soft rock, creating a dramatic topography that hides many natural caves and springs. Because the soil is rich in minerals but difficult to farm, the area remains largely devoted to ranching and preserves a wild natural state. The contrast between the bright red earth and the green vegetation is especially striking during the early morning and late evening hours. Have you ever seen a place where the very color of the soil feels like it belongs in a different part of the country? Fact 16. Standing in the mathematical heart of the nation, the geographic center of the 48 contiguous United States is located just outside the small town of Lebanon in Smith County. This point was determined by the United States Coast and Geodetic Survey in 1898 by balancing a cardboard map of the country on a needle. While the true center of the entire nation shifted to South Dakota after Alaska and Hawaii were admitted, the Lebanon site remains a historic landmark for travelers. A small stone monument and a tiny chapel stand at the location, inviting visitors to stand in the very heart of the American mainland. The surrounding landscape consists of quiet farmland and rolling hills that represent the quintessential core of the Great Plains region. It serves as a symbolic middle ground where the different cultures and climates of the nation meet in a peaceful rural setting. Fact 15. The anchor for every map on the continent. Located in Osborne County, Meads Ranch serves as the geodetic center of North America, a point of immense importance for mapmaking across the continent. In 1901, this site was chosen as the primary reference point for all surveying and mapping in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. For decades, every property line and state border in North America was calculated based on its distance and direction from this single spot in a Kansas pasture. The location was ideal because it sits near the center of the continent, minimizing the errors that can occur when projecting a curved Earth onto a flat map. Surveyors used highly precise instruments and mathematical calculations to connect thousands of locations back to this exact point, creating a unified system that allowed roads, railways, cities, and borders to be mapped with remarkable consistency. Although satellite technology has since replaced traditional surveying methods, the ranch remains a site of pilgrimage for geographers and land surveyors. A small monument now marks the historic location, standing quietly among the open plains where one of the most important invisible reference points in North America was established. It is a humble place that once held the continent together through the precise language of mathematics, geography, and geometry. Fact 14. Living within the shadows of sandstone cliffs. Canopolis State Park, the oldest state park in Kansas, is home to the stunning Horse Thief Canyon and a series of unique cave formations. The canyon was carved by the waters of the Smoky Hill River through layers of Dakota sandstone, creating vertical walls and narrow passages that hide many secret alcoves. Within the park, visitors can find the Ferris Caves, which were hand-carved into the soft sandstone by early settlers to serve as a home and a cool cellar for food storage. The park also features the Mushroom Rocks, which are similar to those found in other parts of the state but are integrated into a larger system of bluffs and trails. This area provides a dramatic contrast to the surrounding flat plains, offering a rugged environment for hiking and exploration. The lake itself was created by a massive dam project that now provides flood control and recreation for the entire region. Fact 13. The invisible flow of a subterranean river. The Cimarron River is a fascinating example of a disappearing river that flows through the southwestern corner of Kansas. Originating in the mountains of New Mexico, the river often runs completely dry on the surface as it passes through the sandy plains of the Cimarron National Grassland. However, a massive amount of water continues to flow silently through the deep layers of sand and gravel beneath the riverbed, creating a subterranean waterway that remains invisible to the naked eye. This underground flow is part of the High Plains Aquifer and is vital for supporting the local ecosystem during periods of extreme drought. The river's path is marked by salt marshes and cottonwood trees that tap into the hidden moisture below. Historically, the dry riverbed was a treacherous section of the Santa Fe Trail where travelers struggled to find water despite standing right on top of a river. Have you ever thought about the hidden life of a river that exists entirely beneath your feet? Fact 12. A forested island in a sea of grass. The extreme southeastern corner of Kansas contains a tiny but ecologically rich region known as the Ozark Plateau, covering only about 50 square miles in Cherokee County. This area is the only part of the state that shares the rugged, forested geography of the Missouri and Arkansas Ozarks. The landscape is defined by ancient limestone and chert formations that have been eroded into deep valleys and clear spring-fed streams. This region is home to many plant and animal species that are found nowhere else in Kansas, including the cave salamander and the eastern wood rat. The high rainfall and dense hardwood forests provide a stark contrast to the open prairies that dominate the rest of the state. It is a place where the geology transitions from the flat plains to the ancient weathered mountains of the interior highlands. Fact 11. The Smoky Haze of the Northern Sandstone Hills. The Smoky Hills occupy a large portion of north-central Kansas and are defined by their unique layers of colorful sandstone and shale. This region is primarily composed of Dakota sandstone, which was deposited by ancient rivers and seas during the Cretaceous period over 100 million years ago. The hills get their name from the blue or smoky haze that often settles in the valleys during the early morning hours, creating a mysterious and beautiful atmosphere. Within these hills, one can find ironstone concretions and unique rock formations that have been sculpted by millions of years of wind and water erosion. The region is also significant for its post-rock limestone, which was used by early settlers to build fences and buildings due to the lack of timber on the prairie. This landscape serves as a reminder of the vast environmental changes that have occurred in the heart of the continent over geological time. Fact 10. The world of salt deep beneath the plains. In the city of Hutchinson, a massive layer of salt remains hidden 650 feet below the surface of the earth. Known as the Wellington Formation, this salt deposit was created approximately 275 million years ago when an ancient sea evaporated, leaving behind a layer of mineral wealth that is hundreds of feet thick. Today, this location houses Stratica, the Kansas Underground Salt Museum, where visitors can travel deep into the mines to see the vast chambers carved out by miners. The environment in the salt mine is naturally temperature controlled and extremely dry, making it an ideal location for the long-term storage of historical documents and Hollywood film reels. It is a strange, silent world where the air is salty and the walls sparkle with crystalline minerals under the glow of flashlight beams. Have you ever considered that a massive ancient ocean is still present in the form of solid rock beneath a modern city? Fact 9. The lifeblood of the Great Plains. The Ogallala Aquifer is a massive underground reservoir of water that spans across 8 states, with a significant portion lying beneath western Kansas. This aquifer was formed millions of years ago as water from melting glaciers and ancient rivers became trapped in thick layers of sand and gravel. In the arid regions of the state, this hidden sea of water is the primary source of irrigation for the vast fields of corn and wheat that define the local economy. However, because the rate of water extraction significantly exceeds the natural rate of recharge from rainfall, the aquifer is slowly being depleted in many areas. This geographical reality poses a major challenge for the future of agriculture and the long-term sustainability of the region's human population. The aquifer is a finite resource that represents a vital link between the geological past and the economic present of the state. Fact 8. The lowest point in the Sunflower State. While much of the focus on Kansas geography remains on its high elevations in the west, the lowest point in the state is located in the southeastern corner, at an elevation of just 679 feet above sea level. The Verdigris River flows out of Montgomery County and into Oklahoma. This area is characterized by lush river valleys, dense hardwood forests, and a significantly more humid climate than the rest of the state. The difference in elevation between this low point and the peak of Mount Sunflower is over 3,300 feet, illustrating the gentle but massive slope of the entire state. This region is part of the Cherokee Lowlands, where the landscape is shaped by the drainage patterns of several major river systems. It is a place where the water eventually gathers before making its way toward the Gulf of Mexico. Unlike the dry plains and open grasslands found across western Kansas, southeastern Kansas receives greater rainfall and supports thicker vegetation, creating an environment that feels noticeably different from the rest of the state. Numerous creeks and tributaries feed into the Verdigris River, helping carve broad floodplains and fertile bottomlands over thousands of years. Early settlements in the region were often established near these waterways because they provided transportation routes, rich soil, and reliable water sources. Today, the area remains one of the greenest and most biologically diverse parts of Kansas. Fact 7. The Blue Haze of the Limestone Hills. The Blue Hills of north-central Kansas are named for the distinctive bluish tint they appear to have when viewed from a distance on a clear day. This optical phenomenon is caused by the light reflecting off the greenhorn limestone, which is a specific geological formation that caps many of the ridges in this region. This limestone is incredibly durable and was famously used to create thousands of miles of stone fence posts throughout the 19th century. Because the area lacked trees, settlers discovered that they could quarry the limestone and use it as a substitute for wooden posts, creating a unique agricultural landscape that persists today. The hills are also home to numerous marine fossils, including shark teeth and oyster shells, which were deposited when the area was at the bottom of a shallow sea. The geometry of the hills creates a series of steep slopes and flat-topped plateaus that define the horizon. Fact 6. The Glacial Ridge overlooking the valley. Mount Oread is a prominent limestone ridge in the city of Lawrence that serves as the location for the University of Kansas. Geologically, this feature is known as a hogback, which is a ridge with steep sides formed by the differential erosion of tilted rock layers. The ridge was shaped by the movement of glaciers and the subsequent carving of the Kansas and Wakarusa River valleys over hundreds of thousands of years. From the top of the hill, one can see for miles across the surrounding landscape, providing a strategic vantage point that has been used since the earliest days of human settlement in the area. The limestone that forms the foundation of the hill is rich in fossils from the Pennsylvanian period, including ancient corals and bryozoans. This landmark is a physical manifestation of the state's transition from a glacial environment to a modern river drainage system. Does the idea of a university sitting atop a prehistoric ridge change how you view the intersection of education and natural history? Fact 5. The Great Flood that reshaped the basin. In July of 1951, Kansas experienced one of the most devastating hydrological events in its history when record-breaking rainfall caused the Kansas and Morace de Signaux rivers to overflow. This massive flood inundated cities like Topeka, Lawrence, and Kansas City, causing billions of dollars in damage and displacing tens of thousands of people from their homes. The sheer volume of water was so immense that it permanently altered the shape of many river channels and deposited thick layers of silt across the fertile bottomlands. In response to this catastrophe, the federal government initiated a massive series of engineering projects, including the construction of numerous dams and reservoirs to control future flooding. These reservoirs, such as Tuttle Creek and Prairie Lake, have since become major geographical features that provide recreation and water storage for the state. This event remains a powerful reminder of how quickly the natural cycles of water can overwhelm human infrastructure. Fact 4. The ground that suddenly opened up. In the summer of 2013, a massive sinkhole suddenly appeared in a pasture near the town of Sharon Springs in Wallace County. The hole measured approximately 200 feet across and 90 feet deep, drawing national attention as it continued to grow over several weeks. This dramatic event was caused by the dissolution of underground salt and limestone deposits, which created a void that eventually led to the collapse of the surface soil. Interestingly, this was not the first time such an event had occurred in the area, as a similar sinkhole opened nearby in 1913. These geological collapses are a reminder that the subsurface of Kansas is constantly changing as water moves through ancient mineral layers. The Sharon Springs sinkhole serves as a visible example of the karst topography that exists beneath many parts of the state, where the solid earth is not as permanent as it seems. Fact 3. The intersection of wind and atmospheric pressure. Kansas is famously located in the heart of Tornado Alley, a geographical region where the unique collision of different air masses creates some of the most powerful storms on Earth. The state's position on the eastern side of the Rocky Mountains allows cold, dry air from the north to meet warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico directly over the open plains. This atmospheric boundary, often referred to as the dry line, is the primary engine for the development of supercell thunderstorms that can produce devastating tornadoes. The lack of major geographical barriers like mountains or large bodies of water allows these storms to travel for hundreds of miles across the flat terrain. For decades, scientists have used the Kansas landscape as a natural laboratory to study the physics of wind and the formation of severe weather. This climatological reality has shaped everything from local architecture to the cultural identity of the people who call the state home. Fact 2. An ancient scar beneath the Central Plains. Deep beneath the soil of Kansas lies a massive geological feature known as the Mid-Continent Rift System, an ancient failed boundary where the North American continent began to split apart. This rift formed approximately 1 billion years ago when tectonic forces attempted to pull the Earth's crust in two, creating a deep valley that eventually filled with volcanic basalt and sedimentary rock. Although the process eventually stopped before a new ocean could form, the rift remains one of the largest and most significant structural features on the continent. Scientists can detect the presence of the rift through gravity anomalies, as the dense volcanic rocks beneath the surface have a stronger pull than the surrounding material. This hidden structure influences the modern geography of the state by affecting the flow of groundwater and the location of mineral deposits. It is a silent witness to a time when the very foundation of the continent was in motion. Fact 1. The vanished ocean of the Cretaceous period. The single most defining geographical fact about Kansas is that for millions of years, the entire state was covered by the Western Interior Seaway. This vast, shallow ocean stretched from the Gulf of Mexico to the Arctic Circle, dividing the continent into two separate land masses. The calm waters of this sea allowed for the deposition of the thick layers of limestone, chalk, and shale that now form the bedrock of the state. Within these layers, paleontologists have discovered some of the most famous marine fossils in the world, including the giant long-necked Elasmosaurus and the ferocious Xiphactinus fish. The Niobrara chalk in western Kansas is particularly renowned for its preservation of delicate prehistoric remains that offer a window into a world that was entirely underwater. Today, the wheat fields and prairie Prairie sit atop the ruins of this ancient marine ecosystem, providing a striking contrast between the watery past and the dry present. How does it feel to know that every step you take in Kansas is technically on the floor of a vanished sea? What did you think of these 35 surprising geography facts about Kansas?